Recording in progress.
Welcome in to the latest episode of Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer Edition. I'm your host, the real_G Warner. You can find me across all platforms on social media at the real_G Warner. Could be YouTube, could be Patreon if you want to get my picks across all sports. You should, because I went 10-0 on Boxing Day. Incredible run. Not sure I can keep that going, but we're going to do another only strictly all England Premier League episode on this late night with the real_G Warner. Of course, check out the Instagram if you want the 1-minute videos. We're 22-6 this season on best bets on this show. So I'm going to try to keep that 79% rate going. And I decided to bring back the same background because maybe I'm a little superstitious and it's still available here. Might wake my mom up. She'll probably come down and kill me, but at least you'll get a best bet before I'm dead. If you're not following across all social media platforms, please do that. Follow the podcast Betting the Pitch on Twitter. It's at the Pitch Betting, plus on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Check out Betting the Pitch. That's the podcast where you can find all of the goodies. And if you're a YouTuber, go to youtube.com/the_G Warner and you will find what you're looking for. So I just tweeted out that I'm live. Got that out of the way, and want to also thank a new YouTube subscriber, Michael Schultz. Thanks for coming in, and hopefully you can enjoy these winners because that's what we're doing on this show. I'm going to go through each game on the English Premier League card for match day 19 that covers the 29th of December, 30th December, and I think the 1st on New Year's Day. But don't quote me on the dates because, as you know, from my podcast with at Big East Ben, he's not great on the locations. I sometimes struggle with dates. But it is what it is, and we will get through it. So to start in this matchup, and of course I have comments open if anyone wants to say anything, make me go a little bit deeper on a topic, I'm happy to do so. Also probably a fiery mood tonight. Not that that's ever expected if you're following the real_G Warner, but ultimately I certainly am that way considering that ridiculous ending in the NFL Saturday Night Football with the Rams just being given a playoff spot essentially and screwing potentially the Seattle Seahawks and also tonight's Arizona Cardinals. If you had the money line in Arizona, pour one out for you. I tweeted about that, but you deserve a win there. And unfortunately, I think I'm going to lose the fantasy matchup and really could have used Trey McBride getting another touchdown, another reception on his 16th target of the night, but refs are clueless. And that brings us to England. So we'll start with Leicester City hosting Manchester City. Currently, Leicester a 1 3/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Total is 3.5. Juice more to the under. All the juice on Leicester's side right now. So this is one of the hard games to speak of. Of course, it's first up on Sunday in just a few, kicking off in 9 hours and 18 minutes from now. But we will sleep eventually. We'll see when, but at some point you can sleep when you're dead. I'm just trying to stay alive as long as possible. So for this matchup, I guess we got to decide. What do we do with Manchester City? We've been fading them. I have for weeks and weeks and weeks. They've been keeping the train on tracks, to say the least. And I don't really see a reason to stop doing that. So is Leicester City bad enough that it's time to call it quits and give up? I've been playing went against Manchester City by playing Everton and under as I pick my nose on live TV. Oops. But at this point, I feel like Man City, they deserve a bet against until they show that they can figure out, I don't know, A, how to win a game, and B, go on the road and win by 2 goals. So Leicester City had a new manager bounce, and Ruud van Nistelrooy came in, former Manchester United player, or he was on the staff of Manchester United earlier this season. This match will mean a lot to him, though certainly staying in the Premier League is the most important thing. But there's just a lot of problems at Man City, and we've all seen that. But clearly the odds makers or betting markets won't adjust. I guess Manchester City could have been a 2.25 goal favorite earlier in the season to an awful Leicester side getting promoted from the championship. But I don't believe that. It seems to me like there's no real adjustments here, and I'm any other way until I changed my mind. This is not a play that I would have felt comfortable doing probably. It is a home underdog, so that's kind of what the real_G Warner is about. But at this point, fading Manchester City is what I'm about, and I see no real reason. I've made enough money betting against them so far. It's almost like you ride that streak because it only can die once. All cats have 9 lives, but streaks have 1, but they do run forever until they run out. So pretty interested in Leicester City getting that 1 3/4 goals. I think I'm less interested in under 3.5. I guess that certainly does correlate home underdog, and the under low scoring game would be best for Leicester. Maybe we see Jamie Vardy in this matchup after he missed the last matchup with a knock. Late kind of withdrawal, it seemed to me, but Leicester are not good. But they played Liverpool really tight, took a lead at Anfield. Maybe they're eyeing this matchup, even with the defending 4-time champions coming into town, and wanted to save Jamie Vardy's leg as possible. Who knows? We'll see. But I'm certainly waiting also to see if this will climb to a 2-goal underdog. I doubt it, especially for how poorly Manchester City have played in any like form measure you want to look at. But at this point, I'm just waiting and seeing and really curious about how much Manchester City money will continue to catch. Betting a team that looks completely out of its gourd. Pep Guardiola is scratching his face to blood because he's just so frustrated because he doesn't know what to do when he's not killing other teams. And that doesn't look like it's going to happen this year for Manchester City. So move next to a big window of matches all on the Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. It's only 30 minutes after that Leicester City match kicks off. So it feels like a cup Wednesday, except everyone's playing in the Premier League. So we'll see how this is going to go, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of bets out there. And that's why you came to the Real_G Warner and late night with the Real_G Warner to get you ready for Sunday morning before we then transition to the NFL and try to keep as much of the money we make from the Premier League in our pockets while the NFL decides to referee us to death. But next match, we'll go to Fulham hosting Bournemouth. Currently Fulham pick them at home. All the juice over unders 2 3/4, juice pretty heavily to under. Bournemouth has not been great ever since, I think, having a great start to the season, but they're high in the table. So who am I to say that? Love Andoni Iraola, as anyone who's been following this podcast knows, been all over him since his days at Rayo Vallecano, done nothing different in the English Premier League, most expensive league in the world. And I really like him as a road underdog here, but I don't think I'm not really in a position where I'm playing a lot of road underdogs at Pick'em. I'll be waiting to see Bournemouth catch a quarter of a goal from Fulham. And I think we see that. Numbers been jockeying back and forth between that, and Fulham are very juiced at the moment. And Fulham are coming off a road win in a West London derby on the road at Chelsea. Perfect spot for Bournemouth to come in, keep this a low-scoring matchup, which Fulham have looked really good possession-wise and controlling games, but they haven't been scoring a ton of goals until they overturned a 1-0 deficit on the road at Chelsea with 2 goals and 2 counterattacking goals, and great ones at that. I think Fulham are in a really, really tough spot coming off a big local derby win that Fulham are always a little brother and never seen as an equal to Chelsea by any means. It certainly shouldn't be because of the amount of money that's spent on the 2 rosters. But at this point, Fulham have been great. I'm very scared to value if Bournemouth moved back to that quarter of a goal underdog. Until then, I think I'm more interested in under 2 3/4. I think it's going to be a tough match and a tough spot for Fulham to come up with back-to-back great showings, though I don't really love fading teams that have been making me money as they did on the road at Chelsea just earlier this week. Moving next to Everton hosting Nottingham Forest, calling Everton a pick'em, but with more juice than Nottingham Forest sitting, I think, third in the English Premier League table. Totals 2 1/4, juice really heavily to under. This is probably a number I want to get into tonight as we are 9 hours and 43 minutes. They'll kick off in this one. Everton, I'm interested in them as a home underdog, but not so much at pick'em because I just don't trust them to score, which then correlates to under. We haven't seen an under 2 1/4 nor an under 2 in the Premier League, and I can't even tell you how long. This has been a low-scoring league, and it's been very profitable to play unders, unlike a lot of the other big leagues in Europe, honestly. But Nottingham Forest, they've been playing great this year, a lot because of a good, solid defense. They've been scoring goals. I don't think that will continue. Anthony Alanga ended up winning a game, I think, last week, or their last match day just a few days ago. I also think with the fixture congestion, that's going to impact offenses just as much as defenses. Defenses are probably a little bit more weary and less likely to rotate. But I think we're going to see a slog of games as we've seen a lot in the Premier League in England. And I think it's going to be another one of those games. So don't let the under 2 1/4 goals make you afraid or keep you off. Ultimately, I'm just trying to play any sort of total here above 2. If it lands 2 and you push, so be it. Free movie as _Schnicker from the NFL podcast on the Betting Pitch Podcast Network will tell you it's like you go to a movie for free. You never get to go to a movie for free. So making a bet and taking a push, not so bad. So I'll put that on my list as Everton under 2 1/4 goals. And I'll wait to see if we can get Everton some money on the Nottingham Forest side, actually, and push Everton to an underdog. Moving next to Crystal Palace hosting Southampton. Crystal Palace, a 1-goal favorite at home with more juice on Southampton away. Total is 2 3/4, juice slightly more to under than to over. Southampton brought in Ivan Juric from formerly of Torino and Hellas Verona and Roma most recently in the Serie A in Italy. Very defensive manager, and it's exactly what Southampton need. They can't score goals. Onuachu, I mean, it was going to take him a year to score a goal. It seemed there's one good save, I guess, against him this past weekend, but I think Fabianski made that before his injury. But Southampton, they gave 1 million goals away playing out of the back. They're not prepared to do that. Ivan Juric is a possession guy and he will control games, but he won't do the stupid things that Russell Martin, what a moron, was doing this entire year. Crystal Palace are a big favorite for a team that really struggles to score goals. Mateta has been great, finished last season well. Eze has been a shell of himself ever since his injury. They really missed Michael Olise, who moved on to Bayern München, and I don't really think that Crystal Palace deserve to be a 1-goal favorite. With that said, they've been great at home for years and years and years. It hasn't been that way this year. There's probably a version of the mean coming where Crystal Palace will be a lot better at home and worse away from home. But I'm not sure that starts here. Southampton, I think, are going to be a really tough nut to crack under Juric. I think he's in great position to take over a bottom-feeding team that's just trying to survive. I think that plays perfectly well for him in this road game. This should be a slog, just like Everton, Nottingham Forest, but you're getting an extra half of a goal as we've under 2 3/4 here. So I'm interested in Southampton getting a full goal of insurance. Also interested in under 2 3/4. Would love to get 3, but it doesn't look like we'll get there. Moving next to Tottenham Hotspur hosting Wolves. Wolverhampton Wanderers somehow coming off multiple wins under Vitor Pereira. New manager came in from a 6th place side in Saudi Arabia. But I guess when you're hot, you're hot. Wolves the win over Manchester United and a road win at Leicester City. Before that, not certainly the best teams in the English Premier League at this point, despite the traditions and multiple Premier League titles by both clubs. But ultimately now Wolves go on the road to Tottenham and they're only 3/4 goal underdogs. All the juice to Tottenham right now. Expect us to get back to 1-goal favorite. Over under is 3.5, juice more to the over. Wolves, I don't know that I necessarily trust their defense yet. They're trying to fill a lot of holes with fullbacks in their back line. I don't love that. But at that same, I guess, type of point, Tottenham are literally just leaving gaps and holes open in their defense all the time, no matter who's playing back there. We have suspensions. It's Jed Spence, who just recently kind of took a starting spot. He's suspended for 2 yellow cards. Tottenham are never healthy in the back line because they're really just, I mean, the Ange ball doesn't work. And until this is year 2 where he wins things, apparently, I'll keep waiting to see that happen. Maybe it'll come in the Europa League or Europa Conference League or whatever stupid league they're playing in, or maybe they're actually not in Europe. So who knows? Maybe the FA Cup will come around. But at this point, I guess Carabao Cup's around as a possibility as well. And they did knock out Manchester United, but ultimately having to win this game by multiple goals is just not really likely to happen. Wolves have been very, very kind to me and my family over the years. And I'm interested in them getting a 3/4 of a goal at the moment. I'll be waiting to get a +1 for kickoff on Sunday. No feel for the total because Tottenham can give up 6. They can score 6. There's a lot of goals likely, so maybe over 3.5, Joe Dollar. There's your shout out for this episode again. For the nightcap on Sunday, we have West Ham United hosting Liverpool. Currently West Ham, a 1.5 goal underdog at home with slightly more juice. Total is 3.5, just a little bit more to under. Liverpool struggled, I thought, with Leicester, should never have gone behind, but then ended up winning 3-1. Their front line is terrifying. We'll see if all of them start again. I would expect that they're used to playing midweek matches and they rarely rotate even for Champions League. At least that was what they didn't under Jurgen Klopp. But they can, I think, afford to use and kind of go redline some players in the Premier League to try to keep that Premier League lead as large as possible because they don't have anything to play for in Champions League as they're already through into the next round, I think, automatically. With that said, the West Ham United side, I mean, it seems like Julian Lopetegui is getting the results to keep him in the job. He's not very good. I don't like the way they play. West Ham's fans will certainly hate it, and they hated David Moyes. You should hate more of that. Thank you for those of you that are live with me right now as I take a brief diatribe to say, if you throw anything in the comments, I'll read them out when I see them. But yeah, Lopetegui, they're going to play anti-football. They're going to make it as hard as possible for Liverpool to score. That's huge for West Ham getting a 1.5 goals at home. It's also big for under 3.5. So putting both of those on my list for Sunday, December 29th. So now we have 3 matches on Monday, December 30th, and 1 on the 1st of January, as I said earlier. Good for me. Take that, Big East Ben. I know you have no interest in soccer, but you can't get locations. I got locations and I got dates. We'll move to December 30th. Ipswich hosting Chelsea. Currently Ipswich a 1.5 goal underdog with all the juice at home. Totals 3.25, juice all the way to over. Chelsea, to me, they're really high up in the table, are the closest challengers to Liverpool or had been entering this past match day. and they're going to have to deal with that pressure. It didn't work very well against Fulham. They were pushing for a lead and got caught out on a counterattack. I don't think that Ipswich are going to be that type of level of competitor, especially but they're not in Stamford Bridge, actually. So, I mean, at this point, it's hard to say that anyone is a guaranteed winner away from home. I feel in the Premier League, it's a pretty even league. It's hard to see Ipswich winning because they struggle to win any games, especially at home, surprisingly. But I think my interest here as an Ipswich going after a pretty defensive, solid defensive effort against Arsenal, at least for the first 70 minutes of the match. I think we see Ipswich do the same type of thing, try to stall Chelsea out. They just got practice doing it against Arsenal. That's very helpful, especially away from home. I think we see that again here. So I'm pretty interested in Ipswich getting a goal and a half, and I lean to under 3.25 as well. Next matchup we'll go to is Aston Villa hosting Brighton. Currently Villa a half a goal favorite at home with almost all the juice on Brighton away from home. Total is 3. Juice pretty heavily to under here too. Aston Villa have been really bad away from home for years, really good at home. But the home results just haven't really come this year. They're mid-table side as the U.S. version, NBC or USA or Peacock or whatever pundits were saying about Aston Villa. Brighton on the other side, they've been fighting to be a mid-table team. They're just fighting to stay in the Premier League for so long, then found a way into Europa League last season. Couldn't keep that going. They're a selling club, but they've been awesome. I think getting too much respect offensively, and we see another big total for them this time at 3. Away from home is a little bit more challenging, especially going to a tough place to play like Aston Villa. But Brighton are a half a goal underdog. They can certainly compete here. I think they can win this match. I wouldn't be shocked by that. I think they're probably very happy with the draw away from home at Villa, especially the Champions League side has been spending a ton of money. And I think Villa have a lot of problems. So I'm interested in Brighton getting that half of a goal. Also interested in the under 3, but we'll see what comes out with that one on Monday. And certainly don't want to lose the 3 if you're playing under there. And that's probably my biggest interest as of right now. Last on Monday, we have Manchester United hosting Newcastle, currently a pick'em with more juice, surprisingly on the Newcastle side, though that's been coming down. I think some people, whoever they are, crazy people or just really big interests in home teams have been backing Manchester United because there's not a lot to show for. Ruben Amorim coming in and looking maybe like this job is too big for him. Maybe it's not so simple to move from Sporting Lisboa to the halls of Manchester United. But total here is 3, juice all the way to under. I don't really see Manchester United scoring a ton of goals. Bruno Fernandes is suspended from his second yellow card unless he gets another one canceled out, but I can't imagine we see that. 2 yellows, just you can't even have VAR come to someone's rescue in that situation, it seems. But Newcastle, I mean, they've been playing great. They're much better at home than they are away. So that is something to think about here. But I think my biggest interest is potentially seeing a Newcastle's offense potentially struggle a little bit more away from home, having no faith in Manchester United to score goals at home. So I'll put Newcastle under 3 goals on my list for my best bet on Monday. And then I guess the last one, which is the first matchup of 2025. I don't know that we have any other leagues playing on New Year's Day, but thank you to the English Premier League, never taking a day off or a week off, it seems. Brentford, a goal and a quarter underdog at home to Arsenal. Total is 3. A lot more juice on the Brentford side and a little bit more to over. So Brentford have been great at home, scoring a ton of goals. I thought finally I guess they got their second point of the season away from home midweek in a goalless draw at Brighton. Big deal. Honestly, it actually is a big deal because they have been so bad away from home, losing every match except for one, which they drew. That should bring them a little bit of confidence, as should their success at home to Arsenal over the years. I think Brentford at a goal and a quarter is of great interest to me because they will keep this match close. Arsenal dealing with a ton of injuries anymore, and I think this is going to be a tight game. We might see some goals here, which does make the under 3 a little bit more scary. I still think Arsenal's defense is great and it certainly travels very well, a lot because they pounce on their opponents. But Brentford, they don't need a lot of chances. They find goals out of nowhere. They're really efficient at long throw-ins and set pieces and such. And I think that might actually play into keeping Arsenal's set pieces from being so effective. So a lot more to like on this card, even after a sweep of the Boxing Day slate. Hope you are all with us for that episode. And if you're not, make sure you hit subscribe on Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or on YouTube at @the_Real_G Warner. And you make sure you won't miss another episode. So that is the English Premier League, the next set of games, match day 19, I think as it's called. Forgive me on the number on that I have no idea if I'm right about, but we'll see. And now it's time to pick an ultimate best bet. But I want to make sure that I check to see if I didn't get any comments that I missed. I don't think I did. So thank you for coming in, those of you that are live with me. Late Night with the Real_G Warner. For those of Michael Schultz, as I already shouted out for a new YouTube subscriber, thank you for coming in there. Could certainly use as many of those as possible. I think we need like 900 more to get to ads. So you got a long way to go of ad-free content from the Real_G Warner if you're a YouTuber. Of course, you can find the shorts there. And that's what I do at the end of the show is I make a 1-minute video and post it on Instagram Reels at the Real_G Warner and on YouTube, same at the Real_G Warner in their shorts area. If you got tips on what I should do to make it more interesting, please don't hesitate to shout them out. Thank you for the congratulations on the last episode, and I hope that we have more of those to come. In terms of plans for this podcast, considering we have not put out an NFL episode, we've had a lot of scheduling conflicts with the holiday. My bad. I'm going to try to figure out what to do because we haven't put an NFL episode out, and we have we've already had match games on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Saturday. So we got a small slate on Sunday. I'm probably going to go live, I think, at some point, maybe after the English Premier League and Serie A kick off on Sunday. I think that's the plan, but don't quote me on that. I will try to give an update on what's going to happen with that later, and I'm hoping to get _Snicker to wrangle the kids away from him for a second and try to get him on the line. So that's have been covered. College basketball podcast pretty much was all covered. The games we went through today with Big East Ben. We're Saturday. We did have a Sunday game mentioned on there. So check out pregame.com if you're looking for some of that. And also get ready for us moving to 2 episodes a week starting in the new year, which is about to happen. So I guess it's now time for the ultimate best bet. So let's get into it. Just make sure that I have everything aligned. And I think I do. So let's try to keep this alive. Hey, this is Real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. I need to switch the background, and so I'm going to start this over. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hey, this is Real_G Warner on Instagram and Patreon, YouTube, and anywhere you can find me across social media. We went 10-0 on the Boxing Day slate. Incredible. 22-6 year to date on our best bets. And that's what we're doing right now. This portion of the show, I go through every European league, every bettable soccer matchup, midweek, end of week. But in this game and this day, we're only doing the Premier League, trying to keep that momentum going. And it's kind of only game we've got in town besides the Serie A episode, which just recorded. You can watch that or listen to that next. But for my best bet on this episode, I'm going to go with that Newcastle, Manchester United under 3 goals. I think we see Newcastle's offense a little bit more stagnant away from home, especially in Old Trafford. But how can you expect Manchester United to score goals at this point? You can't. You won't. I won't. And I'll be betting against it as I have all season. I just don't feel like they have goal scorers. And Bruno Fernandes' suspension is a big deal. Who's going to create for them? I don't know. And there's probably a better chance they'll keep 11 men on the pitch, which is just what you need for an under 3. So that'll do it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in, especially late night, those of you that are live. But wherever you're joining, whenever you're watching, listening, I'll appreciate all of that. Have a great evening, and let's get some sleep and go find some more winners tomorrow.
Recording stopped.